In a democracy, the public's right to know severe medical conditions likely to seriously undermine candidates' ability to fulfill the core functions of office ought to be valued above the right to privacy of candidates in public office, and the plan ensures that legitimate medical information is released without creating a slippery slope towards abuse. Stuckert all six. Current legal system allows completely confidential but is needed principle distinction checks that balance between voters' rights, candidates' preference, and difficulty valuing proposed candidates or bullying, required disclosure of medical conditions like this use undermining ability to fulfill core functions. However, for core functions to mean functions not any reasonable necessary and any reasonable review, the person must be alive. Serious mental illness, severe ability, the person must be alive, conscious, competent, on some reasonable reason, temperate. Might appear on other difference unlikely to be intemperate is not a wild view. Would require strong and disclose candidates with life on this required. Disclose having been raped, this provides a procedural statement with a slippery slope towards disclosing inappropriate information from disclosure for this political process. And so to my hijack political deliberation and the plaintiff firms, these multiple prior examples, Stuckert all six. For most people, the right to privacy includes the public liberty medical candidates morally required to waive their right to privacy in advance. Specific medical condition, medical privacy must be subordinated to democratic principle. Wilson, head through shows Wilson's wife were presidential FDR, complication were covered up in Eisenhower, expressed a serious infraction, strongly continued to report that had been cancer free and the subject was left during the campaign had been elected. He would have died in office. Voters have the right to information depression. The subject cannot be justified in view of the public's right to no advantage. Aging politicians that makes health charge inevitable because of unstable leadership turnover. Poll 17. Politics based on comfortable resemblance of gerontology, the disruptive medical charges are unavoidable. The best key political active development parent. 23. Senators at least 70 in the geriatric Stephen Corrales. 5 just full 6 of 29. Senators that has represented daddy in office 1999. Word by the Senate 71, 78, and 7 on inauguration day 2021. Trump may be recently mild cognitive impairment will be the mental health as he negotiates with North Korea, and high rates of leadership turnover increases the propensity for global hotspot escalation below 15. Democratic leadership change heightens conflict involving experience handling diplomatic turnovers. Result less experience the new diplomatic target attack, more to the bluff, and misrepresenting purposely supposedly cyber miscalculate. Forcefully bargaining failure working leaders may face a divergence such as commitment to not critical parties for the chocolate to conflict. Compensate to leave with the experience and simple part information. To remain have already experienced the increase with the Dutch called the air. The right to know solves 1. It forces self-reflection from candidates of properly managing health issues. Poll 17. Mild impairment should not disqualify people to health issues in competitive politics. The less likely to be self-reflective about when it's time to move on. All candidates for major office should be entitled to privacy arguments that don't affect capacity to hold public office, but non-personal authority should have an opportunity to review. The records that 1 with candidates of every age openly discuss how they plan to manage their health issues. It's not dirty for approval for reporting political votes. President, we should adjust the boundaries without cruelty relative without you for president. 2. It leads voters to reject truly unqualified candidates. That solves vote nuclear launches from unstable presidents. Stuckert all 6. So, presidential candidates have suffered a bit illegal to reside as a high psychiatric hospitals like the Judiciary. No competence determining when average standing of both plummeted. At the beginning of the stage of women's human rights, the president system was wildly out of date. Historically, truly just weakening President Nixon. So, psychiatrists behavior once they get a chance to appear in the way of advocates from Yale. This statement has been on this house some case depression. Otherwise, ability to perform the president extreme struggles for the confidence to get injury to your cognitive parent. Requiring disclosure can lead to discourages chance for successful candidates. This leads to 11 voters who said, you might credit so you case or would have. And that's all the extinction question 2K. Transition viewers have not been strike for example in war. Thinking about war when it's a million scale short of war for ability irrational or eventual command hours from someone different nuclear pushing logic Holocaust unreview. After its 1 year theory, it's dropped the debate because the 1 and C shapes the entire debate. No RBI against Sagittarius legitimate theory, then the negative just jump on the shell and the 2 and R. 1 is key checks negative bits, otherwise can lead infinite nibs with respect to church's fairness. It means we never discuss half subs and 2 times your difficulty. The 1 year means any theory is a fall like this outweighs. Negative theory is A, it means the 1 year theory immediately evens the debate, and B, we can't determine the truth. Negative theory is my time is here, prefer competitive worlds. A, resolvability, truth games can't easily weigh against each other. Negative 8, irresolvable debates, the after drop and overview of resolution contradict one another. So I prove the resolution tautologically no comparison. This is not substantial to a direct invitation to judge, and they should be advocacy skills debaters are trained to just question truth or falsity but not compare different versions of the world. Negative 8, debaters increasingly defend their opinions wrong that they are not debaters are trained as focused on advocating the lead debaters for difficult attitude boring years and winning and clear back to why their study is good. Advocates, RBIs, afflex, difficulty of the 1 year means it's necessary to prevent the worst excesses. Class X.
Cool. Wait, sorry. Was anything cut?
I didn't read a warrant for white advocates, RBIs.
Was that the chose about theory one?
Yes.
Okay, cool. You say difficulty of 1 year makes it necessary to prevent the work successes. Why is the 1 year difficult?
There's an inherent time skew where you get 7 minutes of 1 NC offense.
So it's just
4
time
minutes
skew?
to respond to it.
So it's just time skew.
That's the main warrant, yeah.
There's no other warrant.
I mean, neg, I also have to disclose the AF, and the neg doesn't have to disclose the NC strategy,
cool.
but that wasn't in the speech. I can make it in the one.
Okay, cool. Let's go to Parfit and Grozowski. Parfit just says that Parfit and Grozowski combined just says that we have to look at experiences, correct?
Parfit says that there's no single subject. Grozowski says that justifies util. Since there's no absolute essence.
Grozowski just says that we have to look at experiences because we can't look at identities. Why does that mean we have to maximize good or like utilitarian experiences?
I've made other arguments for that. It would, if we're all subjectively the same, it would follow that we should seek to maximize the amount of good experiences those subjects have.
Okay, so basically Parfit and Grozowski rely upon your other framework ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, to an extent.
Yeah, to an extent, sure. You say that maximizing lives is the only way to affirm equality. Why is equality utilitarian and good under util?
Why is equality good?
Under util.
Because it recognizes people as equal beings.
Why does recognition of people as equal beings matter under util insofar as it's not?
Because it creates the most amount of happiness for people. That's why it's good under util.
Okay, cool. Next, you say util is best for policymaker, or like policymakers need to use util. Why is like policymaking action good?
Because it provides pragmatic ways to deal with the world.
So it's basically So you're basically saying policy making is good because it's utilitarian.
It's also probably
it
inevitable.
Can have good consequences.
It proves that policymakers, since they inevitably exist, cannot act in like deontological ways or under a different framework, since they're forced to resort to util. Which
okay,
means
so then this argument just seems to say that we have to use averages and aggregates, which means we have to weigh. Why does that mean we have to use util? Why can we weigh
because
under
util is a means of aggregation that says you should seek to maximize happiness.
Okay, we can weigh under other frameworks. Cool. Let's move on.
Sure,
you say that appeal to consequences is inevitable. What's the warrant?
Even deontological positions give a defense of why individual liberties are good or why agency is good, like some consequence of that being good, which means we inevitably debate whether the consequence.
Wait. Why deontological theories? Why do they necessarily say that agency is consequentially good? Why can't I say it? NC just says like agents are constructed that way.
Because you'd have to prove
binding,
one. You'd have to prove why that construction is good, which you would need an appeal to consequences too.
There's no warrant there. Cool. Let's move on. On Michaelis 17, you say that we have an ethical responsibility to stop extinction because human beings are ends in themselves. Why are human beings ends in themselves?
Michaelis just says if we respect other beings as rational, then it would follow that we should seek to prevent extinction.
Okay, so it presumes a Kantian method of evaluation in the first place.
No, it says if Kant is right, then we should stop extinction.
Exactly, so it presumes Kant. Cool. Starting prep now.
Also makes arguments about future generations, which is non-Kantian.
Stopping prep, 238 left, or is it going to be 2 on case? This should be the correct doc. Let me see if it's correct. Yeah, it's correct. Cool. So 2 off. Case starting on framework. Actually, yeah, framework then underview. Is everyone good? Yeah. Okay. JP Rachana? Yeah, okay. First, attempts by the subject to give an account for themselves will always fail to do the structure that shape our being that from close to us. We are not completely autonomous subjects, but we're one. If I try to give an account myself, I will be disoriented. What is not my perspective is having nor contest the singularity of my story. I cannot tell the story without being witness to which one cannot have been present. The reference foreclosure to us is a possibility for account myself to narrative attempts a sequential account for that which cannot be grasped in sequential terms. There is a condition of me. I cannot narrate precisely, for I have no recollection. My narrative begins with me. Arise my account of myself as partial as there for me and for me, which I can give no account. Thus, judgments are always governed by a set of norms of understanding that are our own, but we're all one. The self is dependent on the horizon within which the recognizes this calls into question the established truth. Others confers recognition norms introduce disorientation of perspective. If I understand myself to be conferring recognition, I take that the recognition comes from me. The terms by which I confer recognition on my own. I submit to recognition when we offer recognition. So I am actually that norm of the agency of its use. And this means that subjects are bound to their obligations to other. We are not licensed to ignore relations, but we're one. Critical reconsideration of the subject cannot provide basis for responsibility. A theory of subject formation that acknowledges the limits of self-knowledge work in the service of ethics. If the subject is opaque to itself, is not licensed to ignore its relations to others by virtue of the subject capacity that sustains pragmatic bonds. And pragmatic calculations like util fail to give life meaning or presume an ontological establishment only the or negative establishes meaning, but we're fine. Non-violence must be allied with intervention of proposed norms that differentiate between lives that counts real only on the condition that lives are real. Does the count call to non-violence avoid complicity with egalitarianism, which even when such an insight follows from a calculation of the consequences of violence testifies to ontology that it's prior to any calculation period. This is not the fact by the condition for any stretching non-violence is derived from apprehension of equality and its precariousness. Thus, the standard's consistency with rationality. Standard clarification of our framework means that the ground should be evaluated under the metric of who best preserves structures of recognition, which are considered of the agent. If the action prevents recognition, you go neg. And if I calculus recognition means based framework means based on the ways in which we think of others before consequences occur, which means the consequential is incompatible with both. Therefore, weighing the framework, that means that there is a zero possibility that your framework is true. Next, content demands for transparency for close relations with other and create acceptable balance. Subject and capacity for fully recognize themselves influence how they used to relate to the other. Demand for full recognition fails. Thus, we need a limit on full knowledge to engage with the opacity. But we're one. Ability to affirm was incoherent, acting and loss for one to affirm others. My opacity occasions capacity to convert recognition that one is not the same as one thinks of. One implied relation for others. Suspending the demand for coherence, counter ethical balance that demands we maintain identity at all times. Subjects capacity to become recognized as occasion by time rally that is disoriented. One can only give recognition on the condition that one the undergoes decentering and fails to achieve identity and first to give account one's whole failed ethical stance consistent asking who are you without expectation of full answer, desire for recognition under obligation to resolve itself through satisfaction. Also, towards the affirmative visa means that you can't actually gain something whenever we try to recognize health information. We're never actually able to recognize that candidate for who we're never able to recognize the candidate for who they actually are. We interpret the health information that excludes us in various ways that are not going to be actually accurate. For example, Trump's miscontrol of Elizabeth Warren's genetic test is going to have it next off. Interpretation: the affirmative must not implement their advocacy violation. They defend implementation. They prescribe an action that we ought to affirm the policy within the United States. That something ought to happen by semantics. There are two internal links. First, ought to be until the general evaluation within an action or imperative, even when the topic centers on the state's evaluation of judgment on command on the agent tag. Robinson 71. Many outside of the express valuations are allowed to be happy. There's no prescription to act as expresses evaluation distinct from a prescription to not description to odds followed by the non-believing opinion as odds ought to be their expression ideal. And post-field discussion of rights begs the question of why state action needs to institutionalize them and how rights exist in the first place. After the discussion, the first need to resolve these questions. King 13. Discussions are right taken for granted rights exist and actions necessary to institutionalize them, but we need to know rights exist to the states after discussion which defines rights is not merely semantic, the terminological distinction is rests which have certain provisions in the first place serving a deeper, more abstract purpose. Impacts first is grammar. The after and applicable resolution that's interpreted as inconsistent with what the actual resolution is. Two implications. First, controls the internal leads to all the pragmatic approach. We can't have educational debates of its own court over the being over. Second, means the judges do not have jurisdiction over them. The jurors only obligated over top will affirm the resolute. They attempt and adjudicate debates by the resolute purpose of the term. And third, implementation of the FFI the effects of policy lead to huge research money. You once upon a year while we have to research about different advantage standards like the residents back in the Balkans or the Philippines. So that always beats that negative 1 year for all these research views always be towards the internal leads checking back other forms of use. You can just pre-run 1 year to check back the structures you already interpret self research for instance on implementation under non-implementation you can only defend how it actually affirms the effects of the action. Skip the Antonio card. Fairness is voter 8 points considered necessary to evaluate the better B point. Our audience pursuing fair evaluation of education is voter 8 point. It's the reason schools fund the B points only for the skill we get from a drop in 8 points in T, so drop the argument is your apathy, which is fair anyways, otherwise it would be severance. No RB has 8 points denies the ISC, you shouldn't went from being taught that's logical and logical always because all already continue to logically evaluate B point. RB has a level 1 RB start creating 76 times 2, that's a structure C which always means it's verifiable and also it's irreversible. You can get better to check back substance U, but you can't ever check back structural U. Competing interprets 8 point reasonably flops in the competing interpretations you have justified by your wrong, it's better than competing once people reasonably is arbitrary. The first judge is a gut check whether a person reasonably use and see reasonably cause racist development since the laws for the bears being increasingly abusive and appeals a reasonable standard on framework. Ultimately, this presumes consequence-based evaluation in the first place, which because it says that because it says that with respect to people's key, but that presumes that we have to do consequence-based evaluation of seeing the consequences of equality, which our framework does not depend. Next, on good, this only says that util is good for policy making, but there's no reason that policy making itself is good. They say the policy making itself is good in the first place because it presumes the value of action. So, secondly, there are other ways. You go and just says that we can't ever have a way. You go and suggest that we state actors need to weigh, but there's no reason we can't weigh under a Butler. For example, we can defend. You can defend whether or not we increase or decrease opacity as intent. Next on the particle card 8-point term. This means that infinite consequences because there are infinite different identities within one single identity. Your card indicates that the identity is going to be infinitely fractured at all points, which means that if killing one person kills an infinite amount of future identity, which means that we can't possibly evaluate under util. Secondly, I can just tell myself a story of myself to unify all my different identities. Secondly, third part is just says that we can explore identity in two, but that doesn't justify it further, which means that identity is two parts not infinitely fractured, which also takes out util argument. Also, the overview on this relies upon your other framework cards in the first, which means that even if you're weighing this, if you're not weighing the other parts of the framework, it doesn't matter. Next one, epsilon. This is off value just because it's inevitable doesn't mean that it's good. Secondly, it's not. Your argument just says that we have to look at the consequences to determine evaluation, but we can just look at the structure of the app instead of attempting to look at the consequences of that structure. We can calculate that. Next, you say human beings are ends within themselves, but you can see that's presumes con, which you can see across. Secondly, future generations only matter under util and consequence-based evaluation in the first place. Secondly, our framework, then this is not just being for yours. Next, you say default util, but this is off fallacy just because we think that util is true does not mean that it is true. If it is true, this literally makes no sense at all. And just because you have defense on our framework does not mean that util is true. Next one, you say only consequences and explains the degrees of wrong. We already answered this. Secondly, consequences can't possibly explain the degrees of wrongness crossed by the particle argument. Next, degrees of wrongness crossed by the particle argument. On the other view. Further reasonability. One-year theory is skewed towards the after rejecting all one-year theory because first the acting sounds expansion right crossed by each structural skew that way. Next the acting collapse in the two-year source, the two-year source will have to go for both substance, meaning that they can always go for what's most advantageous always went third. Also the last word meaning that you're going to further enter ethos has no one any Sean Bob proof. Fourth, I only get one speech to respond, but they have two meaning that they can make new arguments in two-year based on my countership that I can't respond to. So they are more likely to be perceived than Wayne Fitz. So that means that just have to do evaluation for negative two-year and second is speech to respond, which causes judgment, which is horrible because it goes one to interrupt for things that they didn't do. Next on your justifications, you say causing the infinite negative use, but no, the negative is not abuse. You are able to turn the which this argument relies upon the in-round abuse in the first place, but there is no in-round abuse. Next, you say difficult in 1 yard means that you need to raise fallback, but you get 10 minutes of the AC and AR to leverage against 10 minutes of the MC. No time skip.
Alright. Class X?
Yep.
First off on T. If I just prove that why does util not just prove that the resolution is a good idea in like a vacuum?
Your plan text is not a question of like your util as a framework. The T shell does not say you can't read util. It says you can't read this plan. You say the public's right to know.
So how does the plan specifically violate?
Yeah, in the democracy, the public's right to know ought to be a value above the right to privacy of candidates for public office. That's clearly saying that in a democracy something should happen, which is a prescription to action, not just a valuation of action.
Okay, so why is the AF not a prescription?
What?
Why is the AF not a valuation? Sorry.
Okay, the argument is that you are a prescription, which is distinct from evaluation.
Why?
If you are a prescription, you cannot be evaluation.
Why is that?
The Robinson card is very clear about that.
Can you explain it talks about clocks. Explain it in the context of
okay, Robinson says there are three different types of ought statements. Valuations, descriptions, and prescriptions. Whenever you have the specific clause of ought to be, that non-doing infinitive, that means that it is a valuation. For example, if I say like everyone ought to be happy, that's not saying like an agent ought to go like make everyone happy. It's just saying
of an F I get under this interpretation.
Kant, Move, Yancey. You can also defend like abstract.
Alright, so the three Fs you read, is there anything else?
Do you want me to keep on listing framework apps? Butler. There's also probably
how are those apps different?
What do you mean? How are those apps
different? Is the violation that I read a plan or is it within the framework itself?
I don't care about your. Well, I care about your framework, but I don't. The T shell is about the plan because that's what violates T.
Gotcha.
I can't read T on framework.
On the NC, Butler talks about grievability. Why does util preclude this?
Util does not preclude it.
Okay, you say that util gives no like meaning to life. Why is that?
Right, util says that we should care about consequences, but that presumes that like we care about things in the first place. If someone around the world that I do not know and I don't grieve dies, I probably don't care about that. That's not relevant to my consequential evaluation, which means that we first have to see that agents are grievable in order to include them within our consequential calculus in the first place. Which means that util is a prerequisite to your framework. Huh?
Why does util not allow for grievability?
Well, like if I killed someone around the world, you probably wouldn't know or care. Like util says that we should evaluate those like killings, but like if util does not know those, then
what's the transparency argument?
the contextual level on the Butler argument? Right, so the argument is that whenever the app tries to reveal information about subjects, while Butler says that whenever we try to know about things, that is always going to be in violation of Butler's framework because we're trying to erase the opacity and we are totalizing the agent. And opacity is constitutive of a person. Yeah.
How does health information specifically do this?
Because you know health information. Like if I knew
So how does that erase
Dino's health information, I would probably know more about him.
How does it erase someone's identity?
The claim is not that it erases identity, it is that it totalizes identity.
Okay. 4 minutes starting now.
Also, you say identity doesn't exist. So it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there's any cards. Nope.
Is there anything new, like a new law?
No.
Okay.
T, AC, and C.
Is there any more specific on the AC?
Yeah. So it'll be framework on top, quick extension of the advantage, and then the underview. So basically straight down. Anyone not ready? First, I mean value prescription or synonymous. If I value something, then I am inherently prescribing something because I'm saying that it is a good thing that should happen. There are instances in the context of clause, which was in contextual to the resolution, since clause are political actions. My counter-interpretation is that the absence of defend implementation is good for multiple reasons. A is most people will be discussing implementation value of policy making, which allows for us to discuss the real world impacts of it. That is key to real world education, increase meaningful improvement in people's lives. B is utilify with it. Util is true. That means that the defending the consequences and implementation is good. Basis the best way to determine if something is something that's ethical, which means that it's the only way to meet the interpretation of odd by the interpretation of odd basis by making an ethical judgment. C is that it's better to debate cross-apply the conceded arguments about truth testing and how truth testing frameworks inevitably become irresolvable because we simply argue about different values without prescriptions, which are easier to adjudicate. And that is a dropped argument. The reason why their framework versus judge intervention. D is after all of the abstract and another topic don't fundamentally destroy after because I can't claim any consequentialist justifications for the consequences for the justification for the implementation between structural violence, the frameworks, util frameworks, and other frameworks. Where they make arguments, they say grammar, they say it's an internal link to pragmatism. It's separate because there's always more numerous grammatical concerns we can have, but only certain pragmatic concerns. It's not an internal link since there's no inbound abuse, which means it's no inbound abuse, which means they haven't pragmatically come gap. They say jurisdiction is not an impact since you don't have an obligation to vote for either the after at the ag. They're just terms, which means even if I'm outside the grounds of it, it's irrelevant. They say fear creates negative burden first, and fear is good for systemic executed the Afghan that was above. Saying that doesn't create a huge negative burden, but rather gives you more ground because things such as disadvantages and kind of based on implementation. I am going for the verse voting at your TSO. TSO version voting issue because it forces me to raise questions for 1 year time. It results in massive undercoverage. Elsewhere, arguers are under good because they allow for affluence by providing another right to the ballot. They say that it's logical because given the inherent time structure of LDM means that it's necessary to counteract that independently fairness. Ways cause apply their warrants for right fairness that proves it would outweigh any of their arguments against logic. They say it causes 1 year restarts. Those are inevitable since I can just go for a new add-on or something, or is a new turn in the 1 year go to the framework. Extinction is a side constraint that this argument just doesn't deal with their only arguments that it presumes con. It doesn't A because it says that we should still aggregate all beings because it also makes an argument about future generations as being valuable than Michaelis evidence indicates that because humans are ends in themselves we should seek to preserve human existence and seek to protect future generations. It's a necessary prerequisite agreeability or anything they talk about, which means this is just based a prior side constraint on all of the arguments that is a direct reason for you to vote in front of the committee evidence. I'm also going for the utils necessary to create equality because it allows us to recognize all beings equal. It says that we should maximize the value of those beings. 1 year, they extend the disclosing health information is key to expose the key to prevent unstable politicians winning in launching and nuclear attacks and causing extinction. 1 year theory is good. It's key to mitigate skew due to the inherent time structure. Just because I get 10 minutes doesn't mean that it's not skewed. Because of the 7-4 time structure that means to get ton involvement. All of their words are inevitable since the app can inevitably pivot to new arguments. The judging which is inevitable for new app pivots and then to new app pivots to the 1 year go onto the NC first synthetic distinction is a prior side constraint on all of the agreeability arguments. This is a necessary prerequisite to access all of the arguments. Util allows for agreeability in things because it said we can grieve loss of life under util and still say that those things are things and still they say that those things are bad because of the pain that they cause. They say it's means based, it's end based because they say the consequences of following the ends they discuss are bad. They say that transparency is bad. There's no reason this is specifically true for health. It doesn't totalize identity, but because it only releases one facet of a politician's identity and one facet of a politician's identity independently totalizing identity is inevitable because we make judgments all the time. It doesn't turn the case because I still get my util offense. 1 year theory is dropped to the debate because 1 and C skews the entire rest of the debate.
Cool. Starting, I have 226 left. So that's all right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What's the argument for why extinction is a necessary prerequisite?
Because existence is a prerequisite to things such as like grievability or recognition.
What RBI justifications were extended?
Afflex.
Just Afflex?
Yeah.
Cool. The order is going to be, we'll click on T and then NC. Or T case NC probably. Okay, is everyone right? We'll concede the I mean, you don't get RBIs on you don't get RBIs on I means. There are a couple reasons. First, you say your reason for RBIs are times Q, but the I means literally take like 10 or like 5 to 10 seconds to make, which means that there's no times Q. There's no times Q. Secondly, you concede that you don't get RBIs because of logicality. RBIs are logical because they say vote for me. They vote for me because I'm topical. That's a denial of the antecedent, which is a logical fallacy. That's the reason that you shouldn't grant them on RBI. You also concede that logic outweighs all other arguments because that's key to the determination of all other arguments. This means that it also comes before fairness because all fair arguments, the arguments about how fairness comes first need to be logically evaluated, which means that you can't go for fairness comes first. You can't go for your RBI justifications in the way you can't go for your RBI justifications. Also on Afflex, the only argument that you make is just because there's a just because there's 10 times Q does not mean that the one is still skewed. The argument is that you can extend things out the underview like you had here, which means that you are able to check back that which means that you are able to check back that times Q means there's no times Q. But even if you don't buy that, even if you don't buy that, there's no reason that you haven't actually extended reason that times Q is voted. We're not going to be going times Q matters, and we're not going to be going in which means that you don't actually have an internal link to you don't actually have an internal link to fairness. Also extend the education argument that education comes before fairness because it's only portable skill that we gain from debate. It's only portable skill that we gain from debate, and we can't learn fairness from debate, and we can't learn fairness from debate. Logic comes before education, but education comes before fairness, and which means that fairness does not matter. Which means that all of their RBI justifications do not matter. On the I mean specifically, whenever you make an I mean, that means that you don't violate the shell, which means that there's no actual offense on the shell. The counter interp is just floating offense without actually anything without anything contested against because you didn't violate the interpretation in the first place, which means that you can't go for an RBI on the I mean, and you can't go for an RBI on the counter interpretation because RBI means that you are proving one interp better than another, but there was no interp that you violated in the first place, which means that it doesn't matter. But even if you go by that, goes Butler. Or sorry, goes the AC. You can see the argument that you can't evaluate under utilitarianism because identity is going to be infinitely fractured. Whenever we kill one person, we kill an infinite amount of identities because identity is infinitely fractured. That means that we can never have any sort of we can never evaluate under utilitarianism, even if they're weighing the substantive justification for util, as well as we cannot use util. It means that it's worthless as a framework because we can't actually evaluate under it, which means that you can't actually evaluate under it, which means that even if the NC framework might be wrong, at least we can use it, which is reason for the NC framework, which is reason for the NC framework on face. You say that extinction is psi constraint because we have the all beings and that's necessary to agreeability. No, you can see the argument that agreeability comes first because your argument is that like we have to look at consequences to evaluate agreeability. Agreeability is not about consequences; it's about how we frame people in relation to us. That's not a consequence. That's a structure. That's about the structure of agency, which means that it doesn't matter. Next, you say that we have to aggregate all beings because humans are ends in themselves. You can see that you can see in cross-X that this only applies to common, which means that you can't leverage it in the one area like this. Next, you say util is necessary to create equality and disclosure and health information is key, but there's no reason that you don't actually extend a reason that equality matters. You also can see that equality is the presumption of equality is utilitarian impact in the way that you frame it in the first, which means that the argument is circular. Next, you say that one-year theory is good. You didn't actually read one-year theory. Don't allow them to cross-apply this to RBIs because it wasn't cross-applied in the 1 AR, and cross-applying in 2 AR means that I don't have a 3 AR to respond, which means that you don't get access to these arguments on the NC. You say that existence is prerequisite to things like agreeability or recognition, but no, it's not. You can see the argument that it functions like in a vacuum. For example, if we said that like something like 1 + 1 = 2, that's not a statement that like we have to have a calculator to like sum those numbers up. That exists within a vacuum no matter what. That's how frameworks operate. They make a stance about how the world operates, which means that it's basically the same thing as math statements. And math statements are true in a vacuum, which means that frameworks are true in a vacuum, which means that extinction doesn't matter. Also, you haven't actually extended any sort of impact coming out of the YC, which is really problematic insofar as we make a solvency deficit to your YC on the Butler offense, but we'll get to that later. Next, you say this is ends-based the consequences of non-agreeability are bad. No, the thing about agreeability is that it's a question of how we structure the agent, which is not ends-based. Because for example, if I said that trees grow in a certain way, that's not an argument that whenever trees fall, like that's not a consequence. That's just a statement of how things are. Which means that agreeability is not. Which means that non-agreeability is not a consequence. Then you say it only leads to one facet of politicians' identity, but this is still offense insofar as you don't actually make any offensive claims. You only make defense, and you still totalize at least one aspect of an agent's identity by saying that someone is always going to be in this, which is actually a really large part of their offensive information. For example, if I said that you are always going to be a person with diabetes, that's a very large part of your identity. Or if I said that you're always going to be like really short or really tall, those are important parts of the identity, which means that there's still offense coming off the NC. Next, you say that it doesn't hurt case because you can still get util offense, but extend the no solvency in that coming off the AC. That indicates that the affirmative can't get solvency because people are not actually going to be able to interpret information correctly, since they're always going to be, because when we totalize people aren't able to represent them correctly. For example, Trump misportraying Elizabeth Warren's genetic test is a really good empirical example that they do not respond to. Which means that you don't get any access off here, which also turns the AC, because it means that we're always going to be misrepresenting that information. We can't ever have an actual which forecloses the possibility of actually knowing that information, because now we're just going to be looking at all the false information, totalize the information, instead of looking at the true information. So next, I guess go back to the AC real quick. You can see the parking car. We're also going to be going for the additional argument that Butler controls the root cause to utilitarianism in the first place. You can see the card which indicates that that in order to evaluate whether or not a consequence is good, we have to care about that consequence in the first place. If we do not care about that consequence, then that means that we don't evaluate that consequence, which means that Butler is a preclusion to using a utilitarian calculus in the first place. This also takes out topicality, because this also takes out the argument topicality, because that presumes consequence-based evaluation. If you win your counter insurer, that's a good thing, but that presumes Butler in the first place.
50, 39. ACNC. Is anyone not ready? When deciding this debate, you should treat extinction as a prior scientific to outvaluing any of the offense under the Butler framework. It's necessary to preserve the rationality of all beings, which is to make health is good, because human beings are ends in themselves, and to preserve future generations and survival, which allows for those generations to experience happiness, and is a prerequisite to things such as grievability. No, their argument about how it collapses the continent is just flat out not true. A, because I still aggregate consequences by saying we should prevent extinction. B, focus on future generations. This argument been made throughout the debate was also made and cross-examination, which means extinction is a citation on how you evaluate all of the offense. It's also answers the argument about we can't determine consequences under util, because any action infinitely affects a number of people. You can obviously, maybe individual actions on individual people may have infinite consequences, but you can determine a consequence such as extinction because it causes the elimination of all people, which means it doesn't proliferate endlessly because it's extinction for everybody. Extinction for everybody independently. You can also cross-apply the argument I conceded on the good and evidence about whether it is off balance is bad, which means that even if you can't use this extinction first framework, that just proves this. The follows it is off balancing doesn't prove. So the framework we ought to follow, which is an argument I conceded, and the one here that you can cross-apply from my side. The only other argument they have to use that Butler is a prerequisite. It's not, because we can still value things such as existence without the Butler We still value things such as the existence which have the Butler framework because of the happiness it allows people to experience, which means Butler doesn't. So it doesn't keep the app, but the app is a necessary prerequisite of Butler because we need to have some form of existence before we can evaluate go under the Butler and see now like what do for from the extinction argument here, but since it's just not handled by the A is that it's a prerequisite that was above. They make an argument about calculators. This makes no sense. People are calculators. Math 1 plus 1 can still objectively equal 2 even without humans, but obviously ethics is determined by our interactions with other people, which is their whole argument about relationality. So in order for us to have ethics, people need to exist, and the first place which only the app solves by solving the impact of unstable precedent launching nuclear attacks that cause retaliation and extinction, which is the app impact has been extending throughout the entirety of the debate. This is the B reason why extinction outweighs is just a categorically bigger impact. Things such as grievability are pale compared to an entire species extinction and destruction of all rational beings, the destruction of all rational beings in future generations. They haven't made any impact defense to why this thing's so good, so you should flow it through and presume that it's good. You can accept that their framework is evidence-based because they say that the consequences of grievability and things following the Butler framework are good independently, even if it's not evidence-based. I just want that extinction should be a prerequisite on how you evaluate the means the app happens, since it's the only sense it's a necessary prerequisite to solving all those things on the they say make a turn case or I still get offense under util because you can still analyze the species as a whole and still have an interpretation of the species as a whole. The argument against about Elizabeth Warren doesn't even make sense since the plan wouldn't require disclosure of that information. And lastly, you can accept a technical concession, which is that totally saying identity is inevitable because we inevitably make judgments about people all the time. It was a blippy argument, but it was conceded, and it's at least defense on its framework that should help justify the app.
Good run.
Good.
You don't mind if I go get some water?
That's fine.
Yeah. Thanks.